Hello, everyone. This is your professor. I just wanted to drop in for a couple of things here toward the end of the semester. Hard to believe, but true. First of all, this is my first time teaching with this book that I wrote, and I have been considering where to donate my share of the royalties for the books used in my classes. And after thinking about it a while, I finally decided, I'm pretty excited about it. Um, I don't know if any of you knew John Thrower. He was a professor here who died unexpectedly this past summer, and he was a great friend of mine. And his wife started a scholarship fund at BCTC, the John Thrower Scholarship. So that is where I'm going to be donating my my share of the royalties for books used in my classes. So pretty excited about that, and that money will be going back for BCTC students. Um, now let's talk about this paper, this proposal. Look on Blackboard for all the details, but this is what you have been working toward all semester. Everything we've done in this class, learning about the problems of AI and researching and all that stuff, has all been leading up to putting together your thoughts in this project. So let's talk about some things about the paper that sometimes confuse people. It is basically a classical argument, meaning you've got a thesis, which is your solution that you want people to try, and then you give the reasons that you think that solution will work. You give evidence to show that it's not just out of your head, but this is actually bigger than you. That there are reasons to believe this. I mean, there's evidence to believe this beyond just your opinion. It is based on your opinion, notice, because the thesis statement is a statement of belief. But you are trying to come up with evidence within the project to show that it's not just your opinion, that it's bigger than you, that it's objective and outside of just opinion based. And then you also, this is important and people forget to do it, you have to acknowledge the arguments that disagree with yours and address them. You could do that throughout the paper or in a section, but just be careful not to just tack it on. That's what a lot of people do. Oh yeah, by the way, some people say that, but they're not right. Well, that's not really a good rebuttal. What happens is your reader needs to see that you actually have looked into this issue and you've carefully considered it and you've looked at all the evidence and you have an answer for their objections. So those are the four main elements as far as like content: your thesis, your reasons for believing that thesis, the evidence that supports the thesis, and your reaction and response to people who disagree with you or think your solution won't work. Those are the elements as far as content. Now, again, in formal writing, formatting matters. That means how your paper looks, if it abides by the standards, the rules for these kinds of projects. It needs to be an APA format. You can look up all those rules on the internet. AI can help. Just check its work because sometimes it's wrong about APA, but at least it'll save you work, even if you have to correct it some. And make sure it's double spaced. Just do that in the settings. You got to have a references page at the end, which tells the full information about any source you used in the project, in the essay or the paper itself. So it's not the annotated bibliography. That was different. You don't need notes on these sources. Just a list of sources at the end of the paper called a references page, done APA style. And within the paper, don't forget you need to do in-text documentation. So even if you write it as a letter or a petition or something, you will still need to do in-text documentation because that's part of the requirement for this class. Not my requirement, it's just a thing that is required for English 101. So now let's talk about using sources for a moment. You can add quotes in your paper. Make sure if you use quotes, you put the quotation marks around them and give credit to where you got the quote. But even if you summarize or paraphrase a source, you still have to give credit parenthetically in the text and on the references page. So if you're confused about quoting and paraphrasing and summarizing, reach out to me. Now, as the assignment says on Blackboard, I do encourage you to do a non-traditional paper if you would like. You can write a letter or a petition or a white sheet. That's all on there, giving you the options for what you can do for the paper. So feel free to do that if you would like. Now, I will be grading these partly on, you can look at the rubric to see the details, but I'll be grading these partly on things like grammar and usage and punctuation and things like that. So, I just like to warn about that because those activities, I wasn't really paying that much attention to. If I could understand what you were saying, I wasn't really holding you accountable for any grammar or anything on those exercises. But this is a formal writing paper, which means I really highly recommend you use a spelling and grammar check. I highly recommend you take it to the writing center, have them give it a once over to give you some tips. I even recommend that you, if you feel comfortable putting your stuff in AI, to let AI look it over and give you tips. Tell AI to act like a really like hard grading professor and to tell you where you need to work on the paper. But just be warned, do not have AI write this paper or part of this paper for you. This is all you, your words, your thoughts. Any AI help you receive should just be help, not doing the work for you. And this class has been AI focused, but I hope I've been clear that AI is not supposed to do the writing for you. Well, that way you don't learn anything. I mean, the whole point of this is to learn how to write this kind of formal writing better when you need it in situations in life. That's what English 101 is about. So you don't get the benefit of the assignment if you have AI write it. Also, if you do use AI in any way for your project, you are required to document that. Now, how you do that is up to you because there's not an established way yet in academia to do it. It's just everybody agrees that it should be done. One way you can do that is to just write a note, like before the paper or at the end of the paper, saying, here are the ways I used AI. It's not really appropriate to put it on a references page because it's not a source. AI is not a source. It just collects information and regurgitates it. So people are all over the place on how they do it. Just make sure you do it in some way. Also, people have asked how they should submit the paper because I put a note on Blackboard about how to share Google Docs or SharePoint documents. But just attaching it on Blackboard as an attachment, like a Word document, is also fine. What you don't want to do is type the paper directly into Blackboard. Don't do that. That's not professional. You have to do it as an attachment. That's required. And finally, I want to really encourage you to do a rough draft of this essay. Rough drafts are not graded, but I will give you my feedback and my comments and point out things you need to work on, which is always beneficial because, the person who's going to be grading your final draft will give you advice on the writing before you get to that point. So I really highly encourage you all to take advantage of that. Now, I have extended that deadline to, say, Monday or Tuesday of next week after Thanksgiving. But we really can't go beyond that for a rough draft because I have to turn around and get them back to you, and then you have to get them back in as a final draft. Speaking of final drafts, if you do a rough draft, notice that I will give you time to work on a final draft. So your deadline may be later than the 3rd, which is the deadline that's listed for the final draft. So if you do a rough draft, you may get an extension past the 3rd because I have to get it back to you with comments and notes, and for you to turn around and revise for a final draft. So that's another incentive to do the rough draft. You get a little bit of extension, and if you've got finals in other classes, that may come in handy so you can focus on studying for those finals and then do the final draft for this class afterward. We don't have a final exam in this class, so that's why I do this so late. That's looking at rough drafts so late in the semester, and still we have time. So where the week everybody else is doing final exams, I'll be collecting essays and other work. So so I encourage you to take that extra time to work on your rough draft and get it to me by Monday or Tuesday after Thanksgiving, and I'll turn around and get it back to you in a day or two with comments and notes, and you can do the revision for the final draft, and then we'll be done with the semester. So as usual, please reach out and ask me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk to you and to answer your questions. You're never bothering me, so please reach out. Thank you all and have a great day.